And welcome to the Universal Journeys Radio with your host, Dr. Brenda L. and Donny Winter. Follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. Universal Journeys Radio is about how spirituality intersects with nearly every other aspect of our life, even when we do not see it or realize it. Spirituality intersects with nearly every other aspect of our life, even though, I'm going to say it again, we must need to hear it. Creativity and expression are connected to the spiritual energy many seek to understand, and our identity is forged through this process. Universal Journey seeks to help illuminate the different intersections between creativity, spirituality, and identity in order to empower and enlighten. Tonight, our guest is the beautiful Deb DeRousse, who is an advocate for awareness. She will be talking about sex, human trafficking, and the connection with missing persons. Deb is very passionate about spreading awareness and works with Project Missing Search and Rescue LLC in Michigan. Welcome, everybody, and I don't think we brought Deb in. Deb, is that you?
I am here.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So let me say,
great to
welcome,
be
Donny.
here.
Welcome, Deb. Yeah, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. My volume is a little bit off tonight. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm having a hard time hearing. So I'll keep working on that as we go.
Okay. So, Deb, if I may ask, how did you get involved in this type of work? How did you become so passionate?
Boy. That's a tough one, because it always seemed to be coming to me, the missing persons. For some reason, I'm a media, kept wanting me to help with cases. And for years I said, no, I don't do missing cases. That's something way too important for me to be involved in. Until about 2 years ago, when a local young man decided to come up missing. Well, he didn't decide to, but he came up missing. From that moment on, I was called in on the case, took it because Spirit led me. I think you were actually around at that time, Brenda, weren't you? At the Unity
that was
tree?
Kevin, right? Yeah, that was Kevin, right?
Kyle.
Kyle, there we go.
Kyle, yeah. And, it's when Spirit leads you and the family is asking for help, it came to the point I could no longer say no. So I got involved in that case, and on my very first search for Kyle, I met Debbie Markham. And together, Debbie had worked with the missing for many years. Together we discovered that we both had the same drive, the same passion to find these people who could not be found, and to help the families to deal with the missing, see if we could find some answers. And then, ultimately, some of the families we ended up helping with the grief process. And what I learned throughout probably the first 6 months is many of our missing people are actually trafficked. The human trafficking for labor, sex, and other things. But sex is the big one, as most of you know. So that was the beginning, and that's how I got into it. Just a real deep passion as I learned how big this really is and how many people are truly affected, I had to be a voice, because so many people are unaware of what is really going on.
Right. Yeah, and I remember part of the issue, too, when you were starting out with this, is determining who is actually passed and who is missing, because a lot of times what happens when this happens is that their energies are all mixed up, and it's hard to tell because they're under the influence of drugs or something like that to keep them subdued. So it makes it a challenge to be able to tune in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely does. There's nothing easy about these cases at all. Many of them are never found. We know something has happened. As a medium, I could go into a lot of details about, what they give me, what they show me, and I can see most of the time what happens right up until the time that they either pass away or become so confused they no longer know what's happening. Oftentimes I cannot see beyond the passing away point to know where a body is located. So
yeah, because
it makes it difficult.
Yes, I agree with that. Even just trying to tune in, because I remember that particular case that got you going. Just tuning in was kind of difficult because there was so much going on around the whole situation.
Right. And being an empath as well, and most mediums are also empaths, you pick up the emotion of not only the family, but the missing person. So if there's a lot of confusion, fear, things like that, you feel that strongly. And that's a little hard to get past at times to do the work. But we keep on keeping on. So, my big issue with this whole trafficking problem that we have is that so many people really are not aware. And, I know that you can look it up on YouTube, you can look it up on Google, find all kinds of information, but, as far as public speaking in local areas, it's not really being done. I understand they are starting to work with law enforcement, to train law enforcement. The FBI, of course, knows what's going on, but our local law enforcement all across the USA are barely notified of things like this. They can have trafficking issues right in their precinct and not even know it because they don't know what to look for.
Right, which is the case.
Be sad.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So is my sound pretty bad?
Well, it sounds like you got a little bit of a echo, like you're in a chamber or something like that.
Okay. I'm going to swap headsets real quick, so if you guys can excuse me, just go ahead and talk for a minute, and I'll take this out. Okay.
Well, building off from what we've talked about during past shows, starting with the It Happens to Men 2-1, and then last weekend with Jane when she came on, sex trafficking, along with those other two subjects, are considered, in a way, taboo subjects. And that, I think, is why it is so under-discussed, because people don't want to admit that things like that actually happen. People don't want to admit that, because also people invalidate, I know women are often invalidated when it comes to sex trafficking, as in saying, oh, well, if you were wearing a certain type of thing, then you were inviting that type of situation. And that, I think that's one thing that we need to discuss tonight, too, because there is a lot of invalidation surrounding this subject.
Well, and I think some of it occurs when the initial contact and going from there is because these people, that you don't know that they're going to be traffickers or what they're going to do, because they want to befriend you and they want to have a relationship with you or and invite you over and things like that, and as they become more and more, well, this is the one that we want, or they choose you, then they start doing things to put in your drinks or your food or something like that. At least this is in one case that I know that has happened, and they're nice as can be. They'll do anything. They'll fix your coffee. They'll fix your food, and you won't even realize what they're doing. And they don't do it at a quick pace. I mean, sometimes maybe, but this particular incident that I know of was over a period of time. And the gentleman that was doing this to try to capture this gal, he put things in her food, you know, before that he gave it to her. He put things in her drink, coffee or whatever, and then she started to notice that she started feeling a little bit different. And they will always come at you with some sort of commonalities, like they have something in common with you, and they can talk a talk. And it was she was very lucky that before she got too far into it, she realized what he was doing, and she got out. She with some help from some friends. But I mean, it could happen, and you wouldn't even realize that it's happening if you're not sensitive to drugs or things like that. You could say, oh, maybe it's a headache I have, or maybe I'm just off, or something like that. So you really have to be careful, and you know, there are many times that you don't realize until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right. I couldn't agree with you more, Brenda. How is my sound? Can you hear me?
It's better.
That sounds much better.
Oh, good. Okay. Wow. You know, you hit on one of the big ways that people are trafficked. They will get to know you. They will befriend you. Oftentimes, an older fellow will like flirt with a young girl, or sometimes a grown woman. Oftentimes, there's, you know, between 12 and 16 is really, really scary, because that's a big bulk of them. But it doesn't stop at that. I mean, it's anywhere from birth to, you know, 90. They will traffic you if you can get money for them in any way. But they will befriend you, oftentimes on social media, different phone apps, and there's a ton of them. I'll name some off in a few minutes. They plant people in schools, in different activities. Like in Michigan, the art fair, boat shows, car shows, things like that are humongous for trafficking, because there are so many people around. It's really easy to grab people and not be noticed, or make swaps and not be noticed. So, you know, hopefully these places will be more policed. It's getting to that point now. So, but there's so many different ways. So many. I love that story, because that's a great example. And if you guys are okay with that, I can give another example that actually happened in my own family. And this, of course, made the passion for this even greater.
Please, go ahead.
Okay. This was a family member, 14 years old. Has a few problems with depression, self-esteem, things like that. Beautiful girl. And she was in school. An older girl made friends with her. This girl was 18, brand new in the school, decided to be friends. And the girl kept calling and inviting her over. Let's do things together. I'm your best friend. Nobody cares for you like I do. I'll do anything to help you out. And waited until that perfect moment when the young lady, and I'm not going to give names or anything, was at a very low point. Her boyfriend had broken up with her. She was having a bad day, and the girl knew it. So she made some plans, called her out, and said, how about if I pick you up? We'll take a little ride, talk, you can vent, and then I'll take you back home. Well, the girl had trouble getting permission, but finally got it, but was supposed to be home, you know, at a decent time by 9 o'clock to go to bed, and did not show up. And did not show up for many hours. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, her mother received a phone call, and then I received a phone call. asking to pick this young lady up at the Roscommon Sheriff's Department because they had left Traverse City. The girl had picked her up, and I don't know if it was real close, but I know it was in the same basic location. Picked up 3 males. They rode around, had some beers, some marijuana, and kept driving and said, we're going to go to this party. You're going to love it. And headed to Detroit.
Ooh.
Now, by the grace of God, at 1 o'clock in the morning, the driver was a little bit intoxicated and speeding, pulled over for speeding. Now, it was a whole car full. The 14-year-old was the only minor in this car. They were picked up, arrested, for drunk driving, contributing to a minor. The police made the phone call to the mother, who made a phone call to me to pick her up, and all these kids were let go. Now, they were all between 18 and 21. They did have to go to court, for the drunk driving, but that was that. Nowhere did anybody even consider sex trafficking other than myself. And when I brought it up, it was, basically shoved under the rug. No, that does not happen here. It's all taken care of. She's safe. Well, it was sex trafficking. They were headed to Detroit, and had that car not been stopped, we probably wouldn't have seen her ever again. But that is how easy things like this happen. Unbelievable, isn't it?
It is, and the bad part about it for the individual who gets I'm going to say, shanghaied into this stuff, is that they keep them continually drugged, and they do what they do and over again. So, they could try to get away or whatever, but they keep them so drugged up that they can't even think of what to do or how to do it because they're so confused. And that's, for me as an intuitive, when I tune into individuals like this, I get that. I get that they didn't know what was going on. They hadn't a clue. And they, even when, they've been with these individuals for a long time, because drugs really screw you up.
Right. And if they are not drugged, not all of them are, but a big bulk of them are. And it starts out, I'll help you out with this. You won't be so stressed. And then it continues from there. But if they are not drugged, they are definitely threatened. And they have somebody with them at all times.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
What do they
They're
call
not
those?
allowed to.
Sorry. I was trying to remember what they were called. Like caretakers, or something like that.
Right. Sometimes they'll say they're translators or caregivers, different things like that. They'll call themselves uncles. I'm her uncle. I'm helping her out, making sure she gets to work, whatever. And some of them are simply to work. Many of them work and are sold for sex as well. And when I say sold for sex, this is typically several times a day. Several times a day that these kids are sold.
And you're right, Deb. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, unlike drugs, it doesn't run out. They keep these girls hanging on, usually not very healthy, but it's not like they have to sell drugs and then get more drugs to sell more drugs. They have this person, and they just keep selling them. Making $2,500 or more a day off these kids. Yeah. It's sick.
Yeah, that is just. Yeah, I can see that. It's easy for them to get you involved and stuff like that. And you're right, Deb. it is by threats. I mean, the whole community could know about this and be threatened to a degree that they're afraid to do anything or say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's sad. That's really, really sad.
It's scary, too.
Yeah, it's
really
very scary. And I'll tell you, Donnie, what scares me the most is that people are so unaware that it's happening right under their noses and they haven't a clue. That's what really scares me.
Mm-hmm.
Parents really need to step up and, I hate to say it, but they have to police their kids.
Yep.
Know where they are, who they're with, what they're doing. Social media, my rules have always been, if you're in my home and you have any telephones or social media, I have all passwords. And I look at these accounts daily. Nothing is to be downloaded without talking about it and having permission. And there's several apps out there that, oh my God, it's awful because they use these apps to not only find these kids, but to communicate with them. And a lot of these apps, once they've had the conversation, it automatically deletes it.
Mm-hmm.
So the trafficker can't be found.
Well, like Snapchat. Snapchat's a good one for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I can name off a few if you'd like.
Sure.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. There's Yik Yak, Snapchat, of course, like you said, Kik. Kik is a big one, and that's K-I-K. And we all know about Facebook. Facebook, you really have to, if kids are using Facebook by phone, make sure the GPS location is off. Because if you don't, every time they post something or communicate with somebody by messenger, the location shows up. Okay, and then there's Poof. Whisper. There's one called Down. It used to be called Bang with Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Blender, and that's Blendr. Chat Roulette. And Vine. Vine is another one a lot of them use because it's so easy to send videos back and forth. And once you view them, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a site that a lot of the kids are using, and it's called Ask FM. And it's a really popular social network site and I know that a lot of parents don't know anything about any of these sites. So.
No, the only one I've ever heard of is, obviously Facebook and Snapchat. I didn't know about that. Really.
Well, the bad thing about some of these sites, and I'm going to name drop another one, Grindr, which is a gay one.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of a lot of sex trafficking on that site too. And the thing is, it's more of an app than a site, but some of these apps especially show people's locations, like to the mile even. And I think that adds a layer of dangerousness to it because that makes people easy to locate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, that's the sad thing is a lot of these sites that people don't know about, trafficking is going on. It's constant. So it's vitally important to know exactly what your kids are doing. Go through their history. And a lot of these, the history is gone. There's nothing. You can't find it. There's even an app that will clear it all so that, it can't be found. So it's crazy. Crazy out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there are.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's several websites as well that people go to. to find these kids. You can actually order kids online on some of these websites.
Wow.
Yeah. Scary.
It's almost like the mail order brides, you know. Jeez, oh, Pete.
Mm-hmm. Right. I don't know if you guys know, but we did have a big bust in Michigan not very long ago, and they made 59 arrests. It was Oakland County, Wayne County, Macomb, and Genesee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a pretty big one, but that's the tip of the iceberg, just barely the tip.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This stuff has been going on for years and years and years and years, and this is just not in Michigan or not in the United States. This is all over the world. So if someone gets picked up here, there's no way of saying that individual is going to stay, let alone in Michigan, but the United States. They could be taken all over the world, for that matter.
Mhm.
Right. And some are picked up to send to other countries. Mm-hmm. And there's big money in that. One thing I really want to point out that a lot of people don't think about is many of these kids who are trafficked live right in their own home.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's happening more and more, and this has also been going on for many, many years. Some are being sold at school, some are being sold by friends. We had somebody in our area who it was a young man who was selling his 3-year-old sister to all of his friends.
Oh my gosh!
Sometimes.
Whoa! What?
Yes, and there's a lot of that. Parents will sell their kids to get money for drugs, to get money to pay rent, to get money for groceries.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
That
everywhere,
is,
and
that
Michigan
is just dumbfounding.
Huge. Yeah, isn't that? I know, and people say, "Oh, we don't have that problem." That's in other countries. Oh no.
No, that's in the United States.
It's big in the United States. Very big.
Well, I remember years ago hearing something about this in New York City. Huge. And it's like, wow, I just can't believe all of this stuff that's happening, and these kids are being taken, and the young people are being taken, and it's just not girls, it's just not boys, and it's gays and lesbians and all the rest of it. It's all of us.
Mhm.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. None of us are immune.
No, absolutely not. And the millions of missing people that we have in this country, that they vanish without a trace.
Mm-hmm.
There's sex trafficking, labor trafficking. They traffic for body parts. They make a ton of money off of body parts. And it doesn't matter if you're 6 or 90. Yeah, this is something that if we don't start, really spreading some awareness and people doing everything they can to crack down on this, it's already out of control, but it's going to be a lot more out of control.
True.
This is big business.
Yeah. So with that, hold your thought. We're going to take a little bit of break here, about 3 minutes and 23 seconds, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Universal Journeys. We're here with Deb DeRousse and Donny Winter. Donny, take it away.
All right, everyone. So if you enjoy listening to our show, you're more than welcome to go follow us on our different social media outlets that we have. If you want to follow us on Facebook, if you in the URL bar you type in facebook.com, put in the / Universal Journeys 111, you should be able to get to our page that way. Or if you If you already are on Facebook, if you type in Universal Journeys into the search bar, you should be able to find us that way as well. We post a lot of different things on our page, ranging from uplifting memes to discussion points to photos, a whole slew full of different things. So if you'd like listening to us, feel free to check us out there. Also, we are in the process of getting our shows uploaded to YouTube, so if you prefer listening to things on YouTube, that would be an excellent place to go for you. If you go to youtube.com and type in Universal Journeys, you should be able to find our channel and definitely subscribe to it. All right, Brenda, back to you.
Okay. So,
Yes.
when we're on break, you talked a little bit about how you can see an individual or see the warning signs in an individual and what goes on. Can you explain that to the rest of us?
Sure, absolutely. We're trying to, bring up the awareness so that people notice. If you see a young woman or a young man working in a party store, restaurant, gas station, anything, and you see an adult lurking around, normally there's somebody keeping an eye on them. Notice, do they have bruises? Do they look malnourished? Do they look abused? Do they look afraid? Sometimes if it's a place that you work and you work with somebody who is not allowed to leave without that person being there, you can always report. There are so many telltale signs, even if it's in your neighborhood and you happen to maybe see a lot of adults coming in and out of a house, and there's a young girl living there, and things don't seem quite right. Always use your instincts, but you will see people in and out. You will not see the young one too often, and when you do, they look timid, afraid, sometimes drugged, sometimes bruised. Always report it. And you can either call, your local police, although I don't, I hate to say it, but I don't recommend that for reasons that I stated earlier. The best one to call is the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, and it's a toll-free hotline 24/7, and that is 1-888-373-7888.
Good.
Is there a reason why that they always keep them, malnutrition?
Excuse me, I had to cough. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. So, Donny, have you ever come across something like this before? You ever seen this in your journeys?
Have I ever come across this?
Yeah.
I don't know anyone personally, but there have been situations, I know a couple shows ago I talked about how I know gay men who have been sexually assaulted, some of which have been sexually assaulted more than once. There were individuals who made it sound like it was a continual experience, and that makes me wonder if they were forced into sex trafficking. Now, to answer your question about why they keep individuals malnourished, I think it probably has a lot to do with control, because a person that is in sex trafficking ends up developing a dependence on the only person, the person who is in control, who gives them anything. And I feel like that's why the person in control keeps them malnourished, because it keeps them coming back. It ensures that they will always be there, which is a very sad thing to think of, but I would not be surprised if that was the case.
That is definitely, I have to agree, Donnie, that is definitely one of the reasons. Another is, they don't want to spend a lot of money on these kids. Another one is many of them are actually very sick. Many have, venereal diseases. or other things wrong with them because of the abuse. So, that's always something to look for, too. The ones that are in hospitals quite often, and come up with, you get a 13-year-old who has herpes or gonorrhea or something, something might be going on, and it needs to be reported.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they'll withhold drugs from them until they perform what they need to perform. They will withhold food, water, medical treatment. It's horrible. Many of them are beaten. It's, it's quite sick. Go ahead.
No, it's just I was in the middle of, thinking, and I stopped. But I don't understand human beings. We talk about things that go on in the media and stuff like that about other countries and about these groups and things like that. But the sex trafficking and others like this type of organization, I'm going to call it organization because it's pretty big. They're doing the same dang thing, and we're like, okay, well, it doesn't bother us, so it's not affecting us, so we're not even going to take a look at it. We're not going to do anything about it. But something. This is just as bad, if not worse, than some of these wars that start overseas and things like that. We need to take care of our own people, and this is not that. These people who do things like this, they're pretty damn sick, and I'm going to say that right out there. They're pretty damn sick, and they got to get money in abuse, abusing others. Now, Mike, why I'm saying that, I'm thinking, were they abused as well, and this is what they were taught, and so they're doing it too, or is it physically healthy individuals who are doing this, and they don't let these sick children and abused children and young people get to that stature?
I believe there are different roles. They do use young people, like I said with the one that was personal to me. They paid this young woman, a troubled young woman, but they paid her a great deal of money to go to school and to look for young girls and young boys who had self-esteem problems and things like that. So that's a whole different role. They're using them in different ways. Some of the stronger ones they will use for that rather than to sell them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, money talks, and to a young person, that's a lot. It's just it's crazy. I
mean, you're talking. This is and the statistics were done a few years ago, saying that it's a $32 billion global industry. I mean, think about that. That is big money. That's unbelievable. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And the different roles that they have. These people, they set this up, and they've worked hard to, figure out how to get all of these kids. They figure between 100,000 and 300 are at risk for sexual exploitation. And I just want to clear up that when you say human trafficking or sex trafficking, that doesn't mean that they're smuggled. A lot of people think that, if they're trafficking, they're smuggling them to other countries. What it really means is they're exploited. It could be right in their own home, their own town, and smuggling could be a part of it as well. And a lot of these kids, a big percent, and I think it's like 40% of them are like between 11 and 14 years old. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And
wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, is crazy that this is so big and people are so unaware. That's what blows my mind.
I think they stick themselves in their homes and kind of like do the stick in the mud type of thing, or the ostrich thing, sticking their head in the sand, because it's not affecting them at this particular time. But still, you have to wonder. I mean, family members see stuff like this going on. Why don't they say something?
Right.
Or just, I don't know.
And some people,
stuff.
I mean, it can be right under their nose, and they really don't get it, or they're afraid to say something. Some suspect but think, oh, no, that can't really be happening. So,
right. Well,
it's easy to ignore it.
Right. Some adults think, oh, well, they're just being anorexic, or they're just hurting themselves, and they'll grow out of it. And it's like, really? You guys got to look at a bigger picture here, because sometimes it isn't that. It isn't that at all. Sometimes the things with these children that come out and they withdraw from society, and you're wondering why, and they're afraid to say anything, and this could be part of that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it very well could be. It very well could be. But there's so many things that people think it's a normal thing. Okay, you have a daughter who is 14 years old, and she's talking to a friend online, and you find out that, oh, this is, Tommy, and he's only 14 as well. And they talk every night. All of a sudden, she's missing, because Tommy has told her that he's madly in love with her, and he wants to meet her. And come to find out, this is really some other guy, and he's, 30 years old, and she's gone. But they make all kinds of promises as well.
Oh, yeah.
And, people believe that this happens to only poor kids. It's in every community, every walk of life. The one thing that people want most is love. And that includes kids. So, if you're a young girl or a young boy, and this older person, 19, whatever, is suddenly paying all kinds of attention to you and talking to you and telling you how wonderful and beautiful you are, and they can't live without you, and if you go with them, they can promise you the moon, you're going to fall for it.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
It happens every day. So.
Well, and the same tactics that these guys are using is the same tactics that that a cult, and I don't mean a cult as in spiritual stuff or anything like that, but you have these organizations that will take you in. They'll monitor you, and they'll watch you, and it's like you don't have any place to go, or you feel, these guys will say, okay, come on in, we'll help you out, and then you have the David Koresh stuff,
Oh, yeah.
Chuckling, but it's like, that does happen, because they bring you in, they take care of you, they make you feel good about yourself, to a degree. Now, I'm not saying all sex trafficking does, but this particular type of organization, and it's still the same, and then they'll say, okay, now it's time that you have to do this for us because we took care of you.
Right.
So,
and, it can start out really slow like that. Like, I love you, but I really, if I'm going to stay in this area, I have to pay my rent. How about if you work here and give me the money? And, it starts out seemingly innocent, and the next thing you know, this person is totally in there. Sometimes not only working and handing over their money, but sometimes they do leave with them.
Yeah.
And they call it debt bondage. And it's quite common. Quite common. All right. Yeah. I mean, this goes on and on. You know, sex traffickers use all different methods.
Right.
You know, to keep them. And like Donny was saying, you know, the starving, that's a big one. Confinement, beatings, physical and mental abuse, emotional abuse, rape, gang rape is a big one. You know, it just makes me sick. I had to stop and gag on that one. Threats of violence to the families, not only to the victims, but if you try to leave, we'll kill your family.
Yeah.
We'll do this to your little sister.
Mm-hmm.
And the drug abuse that we had on earlier. So, I mean, it goes on and on.
Well, they know the right things to say, especially when it targets especially those people who are very vulnerable.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, and if you think about it, how many young people at, you know, 10, 11, 12 years old are not kind of vulnerable?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are. So it's not hard to target, you know, everywhere. And this literally is everywhere. Michigan is, as of 2 years ago, was number 5, the top 5 in the whole United States.
Michigan is?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
And I believe that's even higher. I think we're about number 3 right now. But, you know, we have close access to Canada and, you know, the train systems and everything else. It's really easy to get kids out of this area, get them in safely, they believe, into another country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michigan is big. You know, a lot of people really believe that it's not here. Everybody thinks, oh, New York, California, maybe Florida.
It's been here. It's been here for a long time.
Absolutely.
A long time. I remember reading something when I first started on my spiritual path about stuff like this and about some of these organizations like the Illuminati and things, and who they were connected to in the government, and what they did. They wanted to do experiments on the human psyche. So what they did is they put these individuals in, this one particular was Michigan, quite some time ago, and they went around to families and said, okay, we're going to give you money because we want to do an experiment, and this is what we want you to do to your children, and we want to see what it does to their psyche type of deal. And this was way back when, so this has been in here for years and years and years, and it started back in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. So, like I said, it's been here for a long time, but mostly downstate. And then these young people would be treated this way, and then some of them would be given to, say, the congressmen and the senators and stuff like that to abuse.
Right.
And I'm just going to put this out. Like I said, this was a site that I went to and read. And Henry Ford was a part of that, which shocked the crap out of me. But
wow.
Yeah. So it's all over. It's in every echelon of, you know, society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been here for a long time.
Right. You know, I know that you guys have heard the horror stories or read horror stories about, you know, in the cities, even as close as Bay City, Saginaw, Flint, where all of a sudden you have someone knocking on your door. They pull up in a van. They say they're a serviceman, and you're gone. This is happening more and more. A young woman who came to the Unity Tree was working there for a little while was telling him a story about closing down her store out onto the sidewalk and seeing a van pull up. They grabbed a young person, forced that person into the van, and they were gone.
Hmm.
And, yeah, you're going like, wow. I mean, really, that's insane. Now, some of these people will really fight them and end up, being found a week or two later deceased, just thrown out because, they learn that they're too hard to control.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's really interesting, Brenda, what you were talking about. That blows my mind.
Yeah, well, it blows my mind. It blew my mind then. It's like I've read so many things on my spiritual journey that it's like, holy cow, what? And it just wasn't this site. There was other sites that backed this particular one up.
Mm-hmm.
You get into a particular organization, a secret organization, and you're there for a reason or one reason, and then you try to get out. It gets to be pretty tough because they had like code words that would trigger, they brainwash these kids, these people. And then there's a code word that they would use and it would freak them out. It would just make them go spastic, and it's just crazy stuff. And it's all about control, the mental control of the body. I mean, there are so many things that you can do to control an individual. And abuse, unfortunately, is huge. It's a huge way to control, along with the sexual abuse and stuff like that. So, like I said, I mean, I've read a lot of and researched a lot of things. So it's a scary world out there. It really is. I mean, there was something that I read, again, at the beginning of my spiritual journey here, that it shook me up for a whole week. It was very, very hard for me to get through the knowledge that I had just read and to think that the world was this way. And like I said, it took me a whole week to come to terms with it. It's just I've done that. I mean, So I mean, I do understand, Deb, and I'm wholeheartedly thankful that you are doing what you're doing to help to bring awareness to the world, at least to our area, anyways. You're welcome.
I hope so. And in my mind, any awareness is better than no awareness, because the no awareness is making us, it's killing people.
Right.
And harming people.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Hold that thought, because we're going to go on another break. It is at 8 o'clock, so we're going to be gone for about 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Welcome back to Universal Journeys with your hosts, Dr. Brenda L. Bates and Donny Winter. Our guest tonight is Deb DeRousse, and she'll be back in just a little bit. So, Donny, do you have a plug or two you still need to do yet? Go for the guest.
I do. So if you guys, like we were talking about earlier, enjoy watching or listening things on YouTube, I also have my own YouTube channel. If you are interested in discussions on current events, reaction videos, geeky things, or LGBTQ activism, or anti-bullying advocacy, if you go to youtube.com/Donny Winter, you should be able to find my channel and click on subscribe if you would like to listen to my stuff. That would be really awesome. Back at you, Brenda.
Yay! Well, I understand Deb's back. Deb is back, so
Deb is back.
When we were on break, Donny and I did discuss some things, and it's just, again, religion is I want to say huge with this stuff, because look at the Jones massacre. I'm going to say it was a massacre, drinking the Kool-Aid. And then you have David Koresh, and then you have some of these other crazy religions that do stuff like this. And it's it's messed up. It's all over the place. There's really not a place that you can think of that this hasn't touched.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
It's just some crazy stuff.
True.
People are crazy, man. They got some warped brains and stuff. It's just crazy.
I agree. It's crazy. And you were talking about the experiments they did and the different effects that it has on, these people, not only kids, but adults as well, who have been trafficked and abused. I had written down some of the... It's funny that I kind of look into that, too, because you always want to know what these people are dealing with if they are found. We try to recover as many as possible. But they go through all kinds of psychological problems. The mind and body separation, disassociated ego states, shame, grief, fear, distrust, hatred of men, self-hatred, suicide, suicidal thoughts, PTSD, acute anxiety, depression, insomnia. I mean, it's unbelievable what they go through. And, I know this is a little bit off topic, but it's not. You might be surprised to know that growing up, I grew up in the city down by Troy, and one of the people that I grew up with was actually the first female serial killer in the United States, Eileen Warnes. We called her Lee. A lot of people don't realize, but she was actually trafficked as a kid. She was sold and very abused. She had gotten into all kinds of, and it was right in her own neighborhood. Her father was in prison, and her mother abandoned her. Her and her brother were raised by their grandparents who, they were older and sick of doing this and would oftentimes throw them out for a week or two. We had an area down there that we called the Sand Pit, and we'd all hang out there. And sometimes Keith and Eileen would just be staying there for weeks on end. And Lee would have to prostitute herself to get enough money to eat.
Yep.
So, that, in my opinion, what happened to her, what she went through was, the serial killing was a result of what happened.
Yeah, you get so far, and it's like you got to do something. You got to be able to eat. You got to be able to do whatever. And then all of a sudden you get there, and then it's like abuse. And once you start getting abused over and over and over again, the only way that you think that you could get out is do exactly what she did.
Exactly. Yeah, and oftentimes, even when she was very young, the guys that she would sell herself to or would be sold to would, of course, have sex with her and then abuse her, to threaten her. Don't ever tell. Many of these guys were married men. Some were doctors, lawyers, things like that, professional people that did not want it getting out. So, the hatred of men was absolutely there.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to
had to throw that in.
Yep. Cool, that's good. The interesting thing about this is, and I'm just going to throw this out there, is it can happen on the spiritual plane with these guys as well. You may not even realize, people may not even realize this, but this can also happen on the spiritual plane as well. I've experienced that. And you get to a point to where you're like, what the heck? And people are like, nah, you're crazy. I could tell you, I've been there. I've done that. It's happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel exactly like those people feel in the physical form. So even though you get into spirituality, you really have to watch who you get connected to, because this is not a game. This is reality. This is real. And it can happen.
Yep.
Wow.
It does. So,
and
they can
Brenda.
control you there. Huh?
Yeah. So you're giving me goosebumps, and they're not good ones.
Sorry. But it's just, and it can happen. I mean, even spiritual people can do stuff like that. And the bad part about it is they know mind control. In mind control, you could do just about anything, and people won't even know where it came from, because there's no marks. There's no marks on the body. There's no telltale signs except for, oh, well, that person's crazy. And it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know when a guru, I'm taking us off a little bit of topic and I'm going to bring us right back. Do you know when you have a guru, that guru, you know where he taps or she taps into in the name of trying to help you out and everything else? You know what chakra is that they tap into? Is the root chakra and the heart chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And through the root chakra, guess what? Sex, energy, that type of deal. And they use the heart chakra to keep you going, to keep you believing that they're in love with you, because they feel something. They feel that energy. They feel that sexuality, like, oh my God, this is what I feel. I'm not sure where it's coming from. You know, been there, done that, understand it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So people have to be trusting on every level.
Yeah.
Or be aware on every level, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, sorry I got us off track, so let's go back.
Oh, no. That's interesting. It's a very good point, because, I know last week you guys hit big time on sex abuse or addiction. And
addiction, yeah.
Sex addicts are everywhere. Typically they're male, but not always. And, if it were not for sex addiction, sex trafficking wouldn't be as big as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
like one feeds into the other.
Right. It's great that you guys put the shows back to back like that, because it really does feed into one another.
Yeah, it sure does.
Wow.
Well, and this goes right back to our first show. The very first show we started out, with Mr. Gray and the S&M group and stuff like that, because all the things that you mentioned here is what happens there. It really is. It's just on a deeper, not a deeper level, but a different level. That's crazy stuff. And from what I understand, out in the New York area, you have societies out there that are not good societies in this particular area. And if you try to get out of those, you end up dead too.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yeah, because it's a big racket, and there's a lot of money involved, so they don't mind killing people.
See, the thing is, sex trafficking, if we extend it to to outside cultures, there are some instances where it's ingrained socially in a culture.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And not that I'm going to hate on Japan, because you know how much I love Japan. I want to be there someday. It is such an amazing place. But at one point in time, it was deemed in a socially acceptable light there. You guys have heard of geishas before, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They were often sold as young children to entertain men. They were sold into marriage with them. They were sold into multiple different situations with them. And here is my gripe. America annoys me because we always feel as though we need to be in this veil of, if I don't see it happening, it doesn't exist. Instead of addressing problems, we are like, it doesn't happen because America. Like, no, that is not, it doesn't exempt us at all whatsoever. And I think once we start accepting that, we'll be able to address serious situations like this, because many of these other countries where this has been a social ingrained practice have resolved this long, long ago. And here we are still going through this, and it's still not being talked about. Sorry, I just rant there for a second.
Well, no, but that's okay, Donny, because as you're talking about that, right now what's going on over in the Islamic states, you still have people who sell their children off to these men. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You know, I mean, some of these Muslim areas, they've got how many wives? And they have to do this and this and this, and it's crazy. So, I mean, even though we've come a long way in society, in the world, we still haven't come far enough in some areas.
Right.
Yep.
And that happens here as well, Brenda.
Oh, yeah.
It's not talked about, but it does happen all the time. One thing I wanted to hit on really quick is a site online where if you have somebody missing and you're looking for them, and, you know, I don't even know if I should be saying this on the air, but we find many of them on this website called Backpage.com, because this is listings. If you go to that site, they're listing all of these young people for sale, for hire. Many of the kids that have been trafficked have been found on the site.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up. You know, if parents, I think, you know, I always advise people, if I don't look myself, to go to this site and see if you can see your son or daughter on this site. Like I said, many have been found there.
You said Backpage?
Backpage.com. Yep, all one word.
That is, I mean, I'm on the site right now, and this is all over the frickin' world.
Yes.
Every state, all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually found a young lady that had been missing for a year from New York. We actually found her there. And she was found alive and brought back home. So, yeah.
That's just mind-boggling.
I hate the site. I really do. I hate it. But at the same time, you know, they're stupid enough to post these people on there. So if you have somebody missing, look. Oftentimes they go by different names, but you'll know their face. Sometimes the faces are blanked out, not always.
Wow.
It's always worth a try. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't want people to forget either. Now, we don't have a lot of sex clubs in the area that we live in, but, you know, the live sex shows, strip bars where they're stripping, things like that, a lot of those people are trafficked. Pornography, a lot of those people and kids are trafficked. And, of course, you know about the prostitution, the mail-order brides, and all the other stuff. But, you know, that's other places. If you happen to spot somebody, if you go into places like that, personally I don't, but some have been spotted in these places as well. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Strip clubs. You know, even massage parlors, spas, things like that. It's horrible. They can be found all over the place.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the crazy stuff, man. Sheesh.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know there are apps now. I can't think of the names of them, but there are some apps that you can actually download to your kids' phones to help them to report. Like if somebody is trying to traffic them, they can click on this app and it's reported right away. I can't think of the name. I feel bad about that. But there are different apps out there that they're coming up with that are, you know, decent ones to help out. So, yeah, look for those instead of the nasty ones. But if you see any of the nasty ones on your kids' phones, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Block them if you can. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, I'd like to bring up something interesting.
Sure.
So, well, I was just thinking, like, there are some people who are involved in sex trafficking for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes sex trafficking difficult to detect a lot of the time is the fact that those people who've been in it for a long time end up justifying it in their mind as being okay, like it's an okay thing to do. And I've heard of instances where that behavior is continued to perpetuate. Like, the older they get, then they start looking for younger people to, you know, recruit into it as well. And some people, like I know I've heard in some instances in the gay community where, like, pornography has been used as, like, this type of sex trafficking, and a lot of the gay people involved in it completely validate it by being like, oh, I'm just comfortable with my body, I don't care. Like, my body is for me to give away, you know, why not? And I'm willing to bet you when they first started out, that wasn't their mindset at all whatsoever. So, like, I feel like another layer of the struggle is trying to help the people who have been exposed to such a thing for such a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you think about it, okay, especially if they're picked up between 11 and 16, okay, these young people, they grow up their whole life with this, thinking that this is the way life is. I mean, you talk about pedophiles and stuff like that. It's the same thing. You are indoctrinated into it at a very young age, and all of a sudden it becomes a way of life, and you don't understand what's wrong with it because this is all you know. This is what you were taught.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it becomes the norm. It's all they know. And I can tell you guys honestly that many of the kids that are found and taken home have a very, very difficult time staying there. Many of them want to go back because of the addictions, and you know, it does become a way of life to them. And it gets to the point, especially with the drug addiction, they don't know how to get by without it. So mainstreaming them back into society is very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was wondering, you know, how do you bring them back into a society, and what do you do to help them to realize that this was abuse and this is not the norm, and there are better ways and means to be healthier. The healthy is just crazy.
Yeah.
Right. It's difficult, and we definitely need many more programs in place. Michigan is working on it, but we have very few to help these kids get back into society because they are a mess. You know, even being gone 6 months, you know, at 11, 12 years old, you know, they're not being told to clean their room. They're not being sent to school every day, you know, and expected to get decent grades. They are getting high and having sex and, of course, being abused. But, you know, it's almost, it becomes an okay way of life.
Well, and then you have that adrenaline that goes along with it, and I think that's what they really miss is that adrenaline rush. And I could tell you, as being former military, that there are certain aspects when you are in a certain zone and you're being fired upon or whatever it is, that once you're out of it, you literally miss that adrenaline rush. So I could see why people would go back into it. And it's like, how do you stop? How do you change the pattern and stuff like that? How do you change the demeanor of, or whatever it is that you're, not whatever it is, I shouldn't say that, is that mindset? How do you change it? How can you rehabilitate it?
Right, and that can take years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, they are working on it, but we have a long ways to go. It's been ignored for way too long. So there's a lot of people out there with a lot of problems and not enough help. So, you know, the National Human Trafficking Resource Center is really, they're doing wonderful work with these people. And like I said earlier, they do have the hotline that is 24/7. They get so many calls, and they are doing what they can to help. And they do help coordinate services to the victims. But if you suspect that somebody has been trafficked, or you yourself has been trafficked, call, because there's always somebody on the other end of the line that can help you out. And I'm going to give that number again, if that's okay.
Sure.
It's 1-888-373-7888. 888-373-7888. Everybody write that down and keep it handy. I would recommend putting it in your phone because you never know. You never know when you might need it. I'm always going through the missing persons files, missing in Michigan, things like that. And, whenever I'm out, I'm always looking for signs that, somebody might be trafficked or looking for that missing person. And I have a number right in my phone to call immediately.
Deb, could you repeat what are some of the signs again? I mean, I think that's worth repeating.
Right. Some of the signs are like bruises, very thin, malnutrition. You can tell when someone has malnutrition or isn't sleeping well. They're thin, they have the dark circles, they look frightened. You can tell they've been abused. They seem out of sorts. Some of them always have an adult lurking by, a friend, an uncle, a caregiver, something that is never too far away. And these are usually, in my day we call them the pimp. So you look for those things. You also look for, like if it's in a neighborhood, a house with young kids and a lot of adults in and out, typically males, but you don't see the kids a lot. They tend to be inside more. They're very timid. You can just tell by the difference in their behavior. You don't see them very often. Truck stops. I didn't bring that up before, but truck stops, especially in Michigan, I don't know why, and hotels are really a place. It's horrible. The trafficking and the trading and the even the sex acts. Parks, truck stops, hotels. In all of our cities, we have what we call the 1-hour motels, hotels, mostly motels, and they're used continuously. Sometimes, an alert to anyone owning a motel, someone comes in for a week, and they have a young person, and there's a lot of people in and out. That's normally, sex trafficking. Big events, like the Art Prize in Grand Rapids, the boat shows and car shows in Detroit and Dearborn, places like that, whenever there's a lot of people, there's almost always a great deal of sex trafficking. Either sex or human, same. There's the trafficking, the selling. So it's really important to educate yourself and know what to look for and stay alert. Never be afraid to make a phone call. If you make a phone call and they say, oh, nope, that's not somebody that's missing or whatever, then fine. At least you did your part. But don't be afraid to make that call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're afraid to make the phone call to the resource center, you can always call the state police or 911. I believe the state police are probably a little bit better trained than a lot of our county and township police.
Mm-hmm.
But any phone call is better than no phone call at all.
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah.
So, okay, hold that thought. We're going on another break, our last break for the evening. And welcome back to Universal Journeys with our hosts, Dr. Brenda L. Bates and Donny Winter. And our guest tonight is Deb DeRousse. Deb, take her away.
Hey, so good to be on with you guys. I love
good to have
you
you on. Thank you.
And I love listening
love
to you. Yeah, but tonight I get to be here with you. It's like the old days, right, Brenda?
Yeah.
We used to do radio together. Right,
yep.
Right. So, so take it away, huh?
Take it away as in plug it. We're plugging our station here, or your station.
We are our. No, there's no me.
Our.
This is the
there
team.
You go.
There's no I in team.
There you
we
go.
We are a great team here on Mystical Awakenings Network. Boy, you guys are just absolutely amazing. Every Sunday night with Universal Journeys from 7 to 9, Dr. Brenda Bates and Donny Winter rock it every week. Monday night,
thank you.
Right now we are on hold. Jonathan Lento is recovering, but we have True Paranormal on most Monday nights from 8 until 10. Tuesday nights we have Beth and Barry Gilmer with Sacred Journeys, and they are starting a new, they have had the X-Files on with Mist and Daniel. I don't know if you guys have listened to that, but it's a great little segment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to kick right over to Mist and Daniel are starting their own show called Paranormal EX on Thursday nights, and I believe it's from 8 to 10. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that one is kind of divided in two. Now we have two shows on the network. Wednesday night, as always, is Mystical Awakenings Radio with myself, Deb DeRousse, and Debbie Markham. And we do a variety of topics. We sometimes open up to readings. We talk about, of course, the missing, sex trafficking, all kinds of spiritual topics. And you never know what we're going to talk about. We also have paranormal guests on. So that's Mystical Awakenings on Wednesday nights. On Saturday night, we have with Carly Robbins as the host, and I kind of co-host. What the hell was that? And it's basically,
I love that.
Carly came up with that on her own. It's a great show. We have a ton of fun. It's mostly paranormal. but it's a very interactive show. We encourage people to call in, tell their stories, get involved with whatever our topic might be. So that's the whole thing with the Mystical Awakenings Network right now.
Yay!
Yeah.
We have such wonderful people.
Yeah.
We do.
I think so, too. We have a great, great team of people doing shows. And, there's so many good shows on the network. Right now, the only night that we don't have something on is Friday night.
Wow.
And I guess that's okay, because then we can all go out Friday night and not miss a thing.
There you go.
And one of the beauties of Blog Talk that, some of the other networks don't have is about 10 minutes after the show, the archive is ready to listen to. So if you do happen to miss a show, you can always listen to it at any time, but you can tune in like 10 minutes later and hear the entire show.
Oh, wow. That's pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to take days on one of the other networks that Brenda and I were on.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes weeks. Sometimes it would never show up. So
it took that long? Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Sometimes. Right. Well, it was, people running the network, and they had to edit every show and get it ready and get it out, and sometimes they'd get, I believe, overwhelmed. Yeah. So while Blog Talk can be a royal pain in the keister, it also has its good points. And that's one of the
this is true.
Yeah. So we stick around. Yeah.
I can usually tolerate Blog Talk.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because it kicks you off? Or...
Despite it taking long, it at least it's accommodating.
Right. Yeah, it's nice that it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to rely on having a human being on the other end to produce your show.
True. Basically. That's very true. I mean,
yeah.
That's one of the good things, and it's not hard to operate, which is kind of nice for me, because on another show that I was host on, I had to do that. That was just kind of interesting. It was good to know, but still.
Right.
Getting it back up and running, I can remember those days. Seems like the old days now.
Yeah. I know, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've been doing this a little while now,
Brenda. We've come a long way. Huh?
Right. We've been doing this a while. The whole radio
how many years
thing.
have we been doing this? Couple of years now? Let's see.
Yeah, probably.
Couple years?
Close to 3, I believe.
I'm thinking it's pretty close to 3, if not 3 now.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. It's been a while. I mean, it's not like 20 or something, but yeah.
Yeah, last I checked, we've done almost about, I think, 35 to 40 episodes of Universal Journeys already. That's really crazy to think of. I mean, we started in March. We've come so far in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yay.
It doesn't seem like we've done that many, but yeah, it's like, wow. What do you think about it? I mean, that's 52 shows a year, which is 1 a week, so that makes sense.
Well, minus, because I know we don't do shows on specific holidays either, so.
Right. That's true.
True.
Pretty
but
awesome.
At least you know they'll always be there. Yeah. I guess I can't call you the new kids on the block anymore, right?
That's right.
You two are quickly becoming the old timers.
Oh, goodness.
I believe that Beth and Barry came in after you did.
Yep.
And now Miss and Daniel are coming in. We had the Unspoken Mirrors for a while there, but they have kind of gone their separate ways, so that one is no longer on, but it may come back. And, boy, did Jonathan and I even have True Paranormal when you guys first came on?
No, I don't think
so. Nope.
So, wow, yeah, you guys are the old-timers. Cool.
Yeah, because I remember it wasn't long after you guys, after we all left one program to come over here. You and Deb started your own on BlogTalkRadio. So, and I was just kind of like out there for a little bit, and then you're like, hey, would you like to do this? And you actually gave me an opportunity that I couldn't resist. So I was like, okay, I couldn't pass it up.
You belong on the air, my friend. So here you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Giving people all kinds of wonderful information and sharing your beautiful self. And that's great.
Yeah.
And you and Donny together.
Go ahead. Still there, Deb? Oh, and we just lost her. So.
Oh, no, we lost Deb.
Yeah, we lost Deb. So what she was saying is, you know, Donny and I together, we make a dynamic team, and I've always known that, and that's why when I was coming back on the radio after being off for a little bit, I definitely chose Donny to be a part of the Universal Journeys Radio, because that is where we're at, where we're supposed to be. Because without Donny's activism and everything else being put out there, you know, we've come a long way, and we wouldn't be able to do that with me, because that's not necessarily an area that I've gotten into. And I've been introduced to a lot of different things that was like, oh, I didn't know that. But on the spiritual aspect
just
too.
as you have introduced things to me too, because you bring in the spiritual component, and I bring in the social component, and we mix it together and create awesomeness.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. You both are full of awesomeness. You really are.
You
too. You too, Deb. We love you.
Oh, and I love you. And isn't it so cool that we're all here? And
right. Yeah, and I didn't know how this. Yeah, and I didn't know how this would work with all the paranormal stuff, and then me and Donny coming in, you know, doing this other stuff. But it's actually come together nicely.
Right.
Rather nicely. So,
well, that we didn't want to confuse any of your viewers, since what we do discuss is drastically different. But we get a lot of really good feedback. So yay.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So
yes, and you guys know that every opportunity I get, I listen. Oftentimes I don't listen while you're on the air, because it's, you know, I'm doing the whole family thing and all that. But I listen later, and I love the information you guys put out there. You two have one of the shows, and I think you know this, that can make me sit and sob, because it's just so. The information that you're willing to share and the help that you give to people by being open, you know, with the bullying, and our girls, oh my gosh, you know, Tiffany and Cindy, it's like that the first time you guys had them on, I was blown away. And that was one that I definitely cried through, because I have my own kids who are autistic. So, and that many people will, you know, discuss those topics on the air. So bless you.
Thank you. I just hope that it gets out to enough people and continues to get out to people with stuff like this. I mean, these topics are needed. We need to talk about these. You know, I had no idea when Cindy and Tiffany came on about this particular program or organization. There we go. But this organization that's supposed to be helping autistic children, and they're really not doing that at all. And it wasn't.
Right.
how Cindy said something about it that was like, ooh, and she was hot on the trail with that one, and she went through some things, by saying that. But it's like we need that awareness out there, because not all organizations that are for certain situations or certain programs is right. It's not legit. So people are giving money to these organizations, and they're not doing anything. If anything, they're making it worse.
Mm-hmm. Right. I agree. And, I was oblivious to that as well. I had subscribed to that site and was getting information from them. I oftentimes did not agree with what I was reading, but I thought, well, I just have my own ways of dealing with it and looking at it. But when I listened to Cindy talk about it, it's like, oh, my God, she's so right. They're actually causing harm.
Mm-hmm. Well, the problem is that a lot of parents out there try to transform the whole Autism Speaks thing into a rallying cry. Our kids are still sick. We need to get them cured because they were made wrong and blah, blah, blah. And they don't realize how ridiculous they sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
I could go on forever about them.
Right. Yeah. And it's really easy on their part, because parents who deal with kids like this are kind of at a loss. People don't understand, and you just want somebody that understands and that can, help you. And then they tell you that basically your kid is broken, you believe it.
Right.
They're looking for a cure, and that's so wrong. Brenda, Stephen, my youngest, who is 8 years old now.
He's a cutie.
This kid he is phenomenal. I mean, I would not want him any other way. The way his mind works, I mean, he's incredible. He really is. He's not broken. Yep. He's perfect. He is perfect. So,
well, and the thing is, what we need to try to figure out is how can we help them with what they are doing, what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minds of these young people like that is like, okay, how can we help them enhance that particular area in their life? Instead of like pushing them under the rug or something. Oh, well, you're sick all the way around. No, you're not sick at all. This is
right.
I mean, I was like, you got some beautiful kids there, and it's just working with them, and you and Carly are doing a wonderful job with that. It's just, you guys are, need to be commended for that. I mean, man, you're not giving up. You're welcome.
Oh, no, never. And, I think it's so important, and I have this talk with a lot of people, especially other parents. The worst thing you can do is treat your kids like there's something wrong with them. Because they're not like everybody else. You treat them the way you would treat anybody. You love them for being themselves. And, you don't have less expectations because they're different by any means. Because sometimes that limits them.
Right. And it's up to us, and it's our responsibility to try to understand. We have to understand.
Absolutely.
Because, just like one of your children, they have a hard time being around others. Who is the one that goes to school? It's not Stephen yet, is it?
Well, they actually all go to school now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But not in public school, because public school really did more harm than good with them. They do kind of adhere to the whole Autism Speaks way of thinking. Yeah. And they're doing great. So they're all in school now. Stephen, the 8-year-old, who is almost 9, this is his first full year in school.
Wow.
Because they wouldn't allow him,
Well, and the other people and feeling all of the emotions and everything else, and it's overwhelming. It overwhelms their system. You know, just like Cindy would talk about and Tiffany would talk about, it overwhelms the system. And we have to understand that, and we have to, do something about it to help protect them from that. Or, I mean, even to get them to understand. I don't mean to get them to understand, but for us to understand it.
Right. Yeah, that's up to us to understand it. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. It's like I think a lot of these kids actually, the vibrational level is so high that it's hard for them. And, if we're okay with them being themselves and, just let them skim when they need to.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. They really are.
Yep. Yep.
And you get so used to it. I don't even notice it anymore.
I love the movie Dustin Hoffman was in with Beautiful Mind. I think it was Beautiful Mind. Was that the one?
I don't know. I
don't think I've ever seen that.
Away, I thought you were going to say Rain Man.
Oh, that's the one right there. It's like when I said that, I was like, wait, no, Beautiful Mind was somebody else. Russell Crowe was in Beautiful Mind. But Rain Man, that's the one I was talking about. That was great.
Great.
That's the one that said, why don't we do something to help them to expand upon that ability and not take advantage of them? That's the big thing, is don't take advantage of them. But they could make a good living with stuff like that, and be very artistic and whatever it is that they do well, let's help them to succeed with that.
Yeah, many of them are highly creative.
Yes.
You can only talk about something so sad and depressing for so long. And, I think we got a lot of information out.
Right.
We did. We definitely did. But this autism, I'm telling you, you might as well call them beautiful minds because that's exactly what they are. We just have to realize what they're where they excel and work with that.
Absolutely. Allow them to be who they are.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we are coming up on the end of our show here, and Deb, thank you for coming in and talking to us about this particular subject with sex and trafficking and stuff like that. It's an eye opener. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there we really need to be aware of, and this is a great way to do that. So,
absolutely, and thank you for allowing me to do that. I'm sitting here giggling because the way you said sex and trafficking, it made me giggle because as I listened back to one of my shows one night, and as I introduced myself as Deb DeRousse, when I listened back, it sounded like I said Dr. Ruth.
Dr. Ruth. I love saying your name, Deb DeRousse. It's like, I love saying it. And because I always say it. So, with that said, thank you, you're welcome. With that said, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And thank you, Deb. Thank you, Donny. And have a great weekend or a great week. And don't forget, follow your heart, for only you know which path is right for you. Good night, everyone. God bless.